Many researchers and AI engineers have predicted that in the next few years, so the next 20 to 30 to 40 years, some even say specifically by the year 2050, that AI is going to get human intelligence. I mean, listening to this sounds really scary to some people. It might also sound really, really fascinating to some people, and they both have valid points, I would say. So depending on who you ask. So a really huge advantage that we might have in this regard will be in the pharmaceutical industry. So we might have really, really huge improvements in the drug development and testing processes. We might also have really huge developments in the medical imaging sector, where these models can be able to detect really, really minute changes in medical scans that the doctor cannot really see with their own eyes, right? But then on the other side, we also have several risks that we might face in the future when this prediction comes or becomes true, I should say. But that is far into the future. Let us talk about now. I feel like there are many, many risks that we are being exposed to with regards to AI in medicine that we are not really talking about enough, either because we are looking too much into the future or we just don't care, or maybe you are just not informed enough. That is exactly why this podcast is being recorded today. Hello, I'm Evans, a biomedical engineer. I love to explore medical technology and dive into AI and see how AI is either revolutionizing the medical field or maybe not. Who knows? To get AI to function effectively, we need to train it with a lot of data. And the way you typically store this data or manage this data is by just digitalizing the whole process, because we're in a digital world, of course, and you need to maybe create some electronic record of this data to manage, this huge amount of data that you want to train the AI with. But the problem comes in when we don't have systems in place that typically create some safety for this data. So they don't keep this data safe, and we run a risk of our data landing in the hands of people who are unauthorized and who might in turn sell this data that we have or our personal data to third-party companies like maybe insurance companies or pharmaceutical companies who just disturb you with calls later during your day trying to sell you something because they've seen your personal information. This is a very serious risk that we are exposed to, and we need systems immediately that help to strengthen these electronic health record systems that we are storing our data in to prevent people from intruding our privacy and to keep our confidential information safe. Another issue that poses high risk is data biasing. So when you're collecting data to train a certain AI model, sometimes intentionally or unintentionally, some minorities, genders, or races are being highly misrepresented. And this can affect the way the AI generalizes over the whole population. So to treat some majorities with high priority compared to minorities in the group or in the population, it treats some races with higher priority compared to some races in the group. It treats some genders with higher priority compared to other genders in the group. So a typical example of a racial bias was a recorded case where they developed a certain model which basically predicts skin cancer, I think it was melanoma, and they realized that this model didn't perform very well on black people because, if you have melanoma on the skin, it will look differently on black people compared to white people. So they asked themselves, why was this the case? And they went further into the matter and they discovered that the data that was used to train this model was mostly filled with white people. I think it was about 10 to 14% of just black people, and the rest were just white people, right? So the model was obviously being biased because of the data that it has been trained with. And a situation like this shouldn't be taken lightly because black people typically have a higher mortality rate for melanoma compared to white people. So if the AI is being biased in this particular way, then it's going to cause more troubles in the future, if you think about it this way. Let me give another example over here. This time, it was a gender bias case where they developed a certain model which predicted cardiovascular diseases, right? But in this time, it misdiagnosed women a lot more. So it didn't really perform very well on women, and they went into the matter. They realized, of course, that the majority of the data set was men. So therefore, it will not perform really good on women because cardiovascular patterns in men and women are different, apparently. So, of course, when you use AI that is being biased in this particular way, it's not going to give you accurate results, and in turn, it's going to create very severe issues in the future. So these are some of the risks that we typically have when it comes to bias, and this is very, very, very concerning. We understand that the data that we use to train the AI model is the most fundamental and one of the most important, if not the most important thing in this pipeline. But even so, what if we use a biased data to train the model? How do we detect that the model that we've created is biased without having systems that help us validate the entire development approach? Don't get me wrong, there are systems that are being used to validate the approach, but they're not efficient enough. That is my point. Because systems like double-blind doesn't really work that much because it opens a lot of doors for liability problems. Like who is responsible for what when the AI does a certain mistake? Is it a hospital? Is it a researcher? Is it the manufacturer of the machine? Is it the manufacturer of the software? Just a whole lot of questions to answer. So we need some standard rules and regulations and systems which help us keep these models in check so as to have a model that basically generalizes on everybody and reduces bias as much as possible. Because if the rules or regulations or standard systems are not put in place to validate these approaches, then we run a really higher risk of having many misdiagnoses, many mispredictions, and several other things that can lead to serious problems like even patient death. So this is a very serious problem that we need to deal with. All right, so when it comes to the implementation of AI in medicine, healthcare professionals need to be adequately trained. We need to have systems in place that train these healthcare professionals in a standard way so that they can really understand these AI technologies, understand the evaluation, understand the performance of these AI technologies, and relay this information to their patient. Because I believe this will bring the doctor-patient relationship a lot closer, because right now it's looking far apart because the patient is doing his own research at home with this AI because medical information has become very easy to access, but this information can also be diluted. But the doctor needs to explain how these technologies work, educate their patients or inform them and make them aware of the dangers that they could face when they trust AI blindly. In some cases, patients might even be afraid when they come to realize that the doctor is using some form of AI to diagnose them. They might even be skeptical about it. So the doctor needs to know how the AI is evaluated, how it really works, so they can inform the patients accordingly, so the patient can understand and have, some peace of heart and mind. And this way, we can have some harmony between the patient and the doctor and bring them more closer to one another. So yeah, let's not focus so much on the future that we ignore the current risks and challenges that we are facing, which might lead to even bigger problems if we don't find solutions for them immediately.